What's up, guys? Happy Sunday morning. Let's talk a little NFL DFS. Mr. Bellman and I were just having a spirited conversation, and I got a very interesting question for you guys that I'd love to hear your answers in the comments section. Which coach gets fired first, Anthony Lynn or Adam Gase? Let us know which one you think. Obviously, they're both not long for where they're currently at.
Yeah, no, they're not. Different situations, but ultimately they both suck.
Yeah, I mean, terrible's terrible, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel, the Chargers have a much better team, but Gase has just been like pathetic for years upon years now. It's crazy. I mean, even look at a guy like, and we don't even talk about this, like Ryan Tannehill, who now is good when with Gase, he was not good.
I hear you. He's awful. And Anthony Lynn feels like a guy who would be up 8 points with 2.5 minutes to go, get the ball, and tell Herbert to run the hurry up.
Patriot and I were talking yesterday about what happens in that game, the Patriots and the Chargers. And both of us don't necessarily think the Patriots win it. We think Anthony Lynn loses it.
I mean, I can't argue that at all. I can't argue that assessment one iota, guys. Before we get into today's plays, we got a couple of change-ups, a couple of them staying the same. Want to reiterate, we caught a couple of kick-ass promotions going right now. You'll have to utilize the PayPal or the Venmo addresses below. We have exactly 2 spots left at the $60 threshold on the NBA package. NBA starts in a couple of weeks. If you want the half price advantage, we got 2 spots left. After that, price goes up to $75, and then it'll be up close to full price. And you can get the rest of the season for NFL at only $49. If you want to buy NFL through the website, I'll send you a $20 reimbursement as well. Hopefully get that fixed on the website this week. When we are all done with the DK stuff, we're going to go into the overlay jackpot. I'm sure while we're on here, Matt, we're going to get a couple of people ask us where the overlay progressive tournament information is. It's coming, guys. It's coming. They've been bringing it out late on Saturdays, so we haven't been able to get to it until Sunday mornings. But I swear we're going to do it here momentarily.
It's common, and a lot of times when we do it, later in the week, it owns our selections down even more.
Yeah. I mean, they've been so busy with the matchup shop that the progressive tournaments don't usually drop till Saturday. Otherwise, we would talk about it a little bit earlier and do the 2 thing. But we're here today to give you our best thoughts on it. We'll rock into that in a second. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. Thumbs up is appreciated. So let's stick with the quarterback position. And I see absolutely no reason to deviate from what we talked about earlier this week, and that is with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, my boy, Aaron Rodgers, who has been nothing short of sensational this year outside of the game at Tampa, where he looked like, I don't know, Matt Flynn was wearing Aaron Rodgers' outfit or something like that. He's been awesome all year, 23 plus in everything but 2 games. The game he didn't have 23 plus, other than Tampa, was against Detroit when he had 19, and that's with Devontae Adams leaving Hurts and Aaron Jones going insane that day. So Rodgers has been nothing short of consistent. He's got a ton to play for still, right? Playing for the number 1 seed. He's always awesome in home games. We got no Mahomes. Seattle's running the ball more. Like for me, I got asked this question early this morning, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Like, I love Russell Wilson, but like they're running the ball. They're heavy home favorites. He's not going to need to throw as much, likely matched up with Colt McCoy. It's easy, Aaron Rodgers here. The weather in GB is just fine, man, especially for December. It's not windy. It's not raining. It's not snowing. It's cold, but they're used to that. He's got the MVP push. And if you're looking for one other thing, like Darius Slay is questionable at best.
Yeah, and also one other thing. So one other thing. He's 3 touchdowns short of for his career. Something that he's mentioned a bunch this week. I've heard him talk about it twice. He knows it. He wants it. He wants it this week. Not going to be surprised at all if he gets it. I mean, 3 touchdowns is, another day for Aaron Rodgers. He just looks too cheap here. I think there's a few other quarterbacks in play, especially guys that provide some value. However, if you just want to plant your flag on Aaron Rodgers, I think it makes all the sense in the world because even the value plays aren't that much cheaper than Rodgers. So he looks good here. I'm sure he'll get quite a bit of love, and it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, he's not 8K. I mean, that's kind of the big thing, right? Like, yes, there are other guys I kind of like in the 5 to 6K range I think are not bad plays, but his upside is significantly greater than a lot of those guys. So it doesn't seem like a ton of extra salary to eat.
For sure.
All right, next up. So I'm going to pivot off of one of the guys we discussed earlier this week and talk about a guy that I ended up really liking a lot yesterday, and that's a young man by the name of MYLES GASKIN of the Miami Dolphins. So there is a ton to like right here, and this is coming from a guy who wouldn't normally want to spend 6K on MYLES GASKIN.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when we made our first video this week, it was either this week or last week, I mentioned him to you, and you were not liking him that much.
Lots changed, and you are absolutely correct. And I'm with you because I don't also remember which week it was. So we're 100% on board there. So here's a few things. One, One of the key things you can look for when picking out running backs is the kind of situation they're in. Dolphins are heavy home favorites right here against a Cincinnati team missing most of their best players on offense, their quarterback, their running back, and everything like that. I guess not most of the best players, but two of them. We have no Jordan Howard taking goal line carries. That's big. One of the reasons Gaskin lost a lot of his upside earlier in the year was he would do all the hard work, and then they give it to the old man down the 1 yard line. Well, F that stuff. That's over with. Jordan Howard, he ain't a thing anymore. Ahmed is doubtful. Breida landed his ass on the COVID list. Washington is out. His only competition for snaps this week at the running back position is Pat Laird. Excuse me if I'm not worried about that guy. Again, Cincy is a top 10 in DFS points allowed to the running back position, and I venture that they are even worse right now because they don't have Joe Burrow directing the offense and making opposing teams have to throw it all. Last point, the Dolphins are in a dogfight right now for the division. They're still competing with the Buffalo Bills, one game back. Also, the wild card, while they're looking good for it, is not secure yet. They need this game. This is not a time to ease Gaskin back in there. They need to win this game. This is an important game. I have faith in them to win the game. They're very well coached, and they're a good football team. But you can't let your foot off the gas right here. You got to continue to make sure that you lock this one up as you continue to move forward. So there's a lot of reasons to like Gaskin this week, and this is kind of why I've changed my mind on him over the last couple days.
Before I get into my piece, does it change for you at all that Tua's starting?
Not really.
I agree. It doesn't really mean that much at all. I think both quarterbacks, we see Miami. When they get up, they run. So I think they get up in this game and they're going to run. As far as Cincy goes, you mentioned, they're missing a couple of their best players. Well, it's tough because they don't have any good players to begin with. And then also, if you go to their defense made a couple big signings coming into this season. DJ Reader, nose tackle, and then Trey Waynes, the guy you're familiar with at cornerback. Those guys have been out all year. Those two guys were supposed to be big time for their defense. They've really, been hurting without them, and they've continued to lose guys. This Bengals team is not good. They played an inspired game last week. I talk about this all the time. The first game after, your star player gets hurt, you saw the other guys step it up. They lost, but they lost a close game. I think they get rolled here. I think the Bengals get absolutely annihilated today, and I like the Miami running game a lot. Gaskin makes a lot of sense, and he will get love, but he won't get as much love as he normally would because of Montgomery and what's his face, Booker right there.
And I'll ask you a question. Myles Gaskin or Devontae Booker?
That's not even close. Booker sucks. Booker is not good.
No. Also, the Raiders take on the Jets. We talked about this for a long time. The Jets don't do much well. They've actually been pretty effective against the run, and they're not good against the pass. If you like Derek Carr today, I can get on board with that.
And it's like we talked about this a little before. They are decent against the run, and they're awful against the pass. And whether you want to say, they're actually good against the run, or it's just that teams don't run on them that much, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, it's the same thing, right?
And it's probably both.
Yep.
All right, next up. So I'm making another pivot, and you want to talk about your Cleveland Browns wide receiver by the name of Higgins, RASHARD Higgins it is. And I think the key point right here, and you guys have probably heard it all week long, is Titans don't create pass rush. When does Baker struggle? When there's a lot of pass rush.
Yeah, so you got Baker in a good spot here. He actually played well last week in Jacksonville, except for a really easy touchdown throw he missed to Higgins. I expect him to make it up this week. You've got a game with a really high total that I'm interested in. Bengals. People gravitating towards the running backs here, and it makes a lot of sense. I think the passing games could be set up for a really nice day here. Again, first bullet point is huge. The Titans do not create a pass rush. That's where Baker strives. You've obviously got no Odell Beckham. You've got Landry as the number one. No Kadero Hodge as the number 3 either. So it's really the Landry and Higgins show at 4K in a game that I expect to have points. One of Baker Mayfield's favorite targets. I like him a lot here. Obviously it's definitely a tournament play because we've seen the downside, but I think the upside and ceiling is big time in this spot.
Especially if the Titans were to get down or get up.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what happens in this game. I'm excited to watch this game. Obviously as a Browns fan, but I also happen to think it's one of the best games of the week.
I agree with you wholeheartedly right there. And I've heard this game brought up and talked about a lot with all the talking heads this week, and there's different opinions on it. Everybody agrees these teams are very similar, right? They need to run the ball first to be effective. If either one of them gets far behind, that's just not the game that they are meant to play. Tannehill's a little better than Baker Mayfield. The debate on Chubb or Henry, who's better, is real, and I get that. I think Derrick Henry's got the bigger name, but Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry are like 1-2 in like every rushing metric you can think of.
I think the running games, like whether you want to say Henry or Chubb or they're about the same. The running games are both very good.
They both get better as the game of the season progresses as well. All right, next up, premier paydown option today is going to be KEKE COUTEE of the Houston Texans. We talked about him earlier this week. Nothing's really changed. This is a byproduct of a couple of things. The big one is the fact that their receivers they're out. Will Fuller's been suspended for drug-related incidents. Randall Cobb is on the IR. Kenny Stills is cut. He's now the number 2 wide receiver for the Texans, but he's still a slot guy, which means he runs like shorter, more easily completable balls. We kind of talked about what do we expect out of the Colts this week? Well, I expect the Colts to play better. They don't match up well with the Titans. They didn't play well last week. But in the NFL, what do we know? Teams that kind of crap the bed the week before usually have a great week of practice and play a lot harder. I don't think that's terrible for the, KEKE COUTEE here. And why is because I'm not looking for COUTEE to go like Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams type of ham. All I want is a game where the Texans have to throw a lot of short passes to KEKE COUTEE. He could catch 6-7 balls today. Yeah, they might only go for 40 yards, but the PPR points add up. He's going to run a lot of short routes. And it's not like this is a team that won't be able to move the ball because they have one of the better quarterbacks in the game.
It's funny how DFS works. Like, we think the Colts play really well in this game. We think they've had a really good week of practice. So we like KEKE COUTEE from the Texans. And it makes sense because if the Colts get up in this game and they play well, Houston will be throwing. And like you mentioned, it all comes down to the quarterback for me. I don't think COUTEE is a very good player. I don't think he's the stud. He's in a great spot here. We've seen him, be around this team forever. Now he's basically the number 2 wideout today with a very good quarterback. If I'm making a cash lineup or an optimal line, he's in it.
That's one of the things that when you talk about like bad receivers or at least less than stellar receivers, I guess I won't call him bad, but we just say he's not a great receiver. We know that for a fact. But he does have a very, very good quarterback who can move the ball. That is important. This is a situation like even just like you mentioned, Tua. If this was Tua in this situation, I wouldn't like COUTEE is normally or nearly as much. But I trust Deshaun Watson to offense.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
All right. Last guy up hasn't changed from earlier this week. I know you've really honed in on the Cleveland-Tennessee game as a place that could have some offense. And you mentioned it earlier under Higgins. Like the running backs, for good reason, are getting the majority of the attention right here. If either one of these teams were to catch a larger deficit early in the game, they might have to go throw heavy. Neither one of these defenses is superb. Tennessee gets no pass rush. Cleveland does now with Myles Garrett back, but they're not perfect. So I know you kind of like zigging when other people zag. When everybody looks at Henry and Chubb, take a look at some of the wide receivers.
And the other part of that, yes. And the other part of that is that the receivers that I've chosen to talk about here are the secondary receivers. So they're not the most expensive guys. I think they're going to get even less ownership than the Landrys and A.J. Browns of the world, who I also like. But, man, at this price point, like, I get it. A.J. Brown has, 9 touchdowns this year. But other than that, there is absolutely no reason Corey Davis should be almost $3K less than him. Their numbers are very similar across the board. Davis is a big wideout. He's not the big play threat that A.J. Brown is. He's not nearly as fast, but he's a security blanket for Ryan Tannehill. Again, I think this game's competitive. I think it has offense. I think Corey Davis just has a nice game here. I don't expect him to score 3 touchdowns or anything like that, but I expect him to catch 6-7 balls. Maybe he finds the end zone, but I think he's productive either way.
And that is all that we care about. All right, guys. That does it for DK for the morning. What we're going to do is make our natural pivot over to the Overlay Progressive Jackpot contest and see if we can't win that jackpot today, because who couldn't use $14,000 in their life?
I don't know.
I mean, those people exist. I just don't run with them in my normal social circle.
Yes, same.
All right, Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry? Again, it's worth reiterating that this is a half-point PPR website, which does give Cook like an extra point maybe, right? Because you kind of project Cook to have like 1.5, maybe 2 catches, or 3.5, maybe 4 catches, and for Henry to have maybe 1. So like that's an extra point. Not a major part of the decision, but if like you were on the fence, that might be a reason to look at Cook. And honestly, with no Madison, who's now out for I believe it was an appendectomy, right?
Oh, I don't even know what it was, but I saw he was out.
Yeah, he had to have, I think, a quick surgery. I think it was an appendectomy. Don't quote me on that for sure, but I think that's what it was. Give me Dalvin Cook.
I like the way you put the half point PPR because oftentimes when we talk about it, it's like, oh, it's half point, not full point. Well, the half point still helps. It doesn't help as much as the full point, but it's still something. Either way, I like Cook a lot more. I mean, I like Henry, but Cook's top play on the slate, all formats, anywhere for me today.
Yeah, I would have, because Cook was a little banged up during the week, if Madison was around, it might change my thoughts on this one
Same.
just the tiniest little bit, but he ain't. He ain't there anymore.
Agreed.
And the Vikings are still technically alive in the playoff push, so like they got to win this game. And Jacksonville's defense, I've seen it play hard a couple of times, but it's not good. It's not even close to being good.
I think Minnesota stomps Jacksonville today.
I mean, insert team against Jacksonville, and I can almost always get on board with that take.
The thing is, like, and this is why I think that I could be off. Minnesota played pretty shitty. Well, they lost to Dallas a couple weeks ago, and they played pretty shitty last week, but finally came alive in the end of the fourth quarter of that game. And then Jacksonville has played teams competitive recently. They played Green Bay tough. They played Cleveland tough. They didn't play Baltimore that bad. Part of me just feels like one of these games, Jacksonville's going to die, and Minnesota's going to play really well at the beginning. Who knows? Maybe it's not today, but that's just a feeling I have.
Well, Mike Glennon's the GOAT, so I'd watch out for that. David Montgomery versus Allen Robinson. It's worth noting that Allen Robinson is questionable. I fully expect him to play today, but he's not 100%. I'm going to go Montgomery. You know, it's a half-point PPR website again. That slightly helps David Montgomery because Allen Robinson, you kind of project for like 7 catches and Montgomery for about 3 or 4. It's a point, maybe 2 points, something like that. So give me Montgomery here.
I'm going to go Robinson, but it's tough.
Yeah, because Robinson's better than Montgomery, first off, right? And the running attack of the Chicago Bears is not great. That all being said, there's a reason Montgomery's going to be popular today. Detroit is dead last in the league for DFS points allowed to opposing running backs. You got the Bears as a home favorite right here. It's a huge spot for the Chicago Bears.
No doubt.
They need this game as bad as anybody needs their game this week.
For sure.
All right. DK, and that's not DraftKings, but DK Metcalf versus Aaron Jones. I'm going to go Jones. They get him in the end zone this week.
I'm going to go Jones, too. Got a good feeling about them.
All right. James Robinson versus Austin Eckler. This is probably the most important one that's worth noting about the half-point PPR website. I love Austin Eckler this week. Don't like him as much on a half-point PPR website like this. So I'm just trying to calculate in this in my mind what I expect. I'm still going to go Eckler, but it's really close. And if you think Jacksonville's very competitive in this game, then I would probably pivot to Robinson.
Yeah, I like Eckler, but I agree with you on all your points. I just think better game script for Eckler, and he's catching so many balls. It still helps him.
Yeah, Anthony Lynn also playing for his job. And they showed last week when we thought they might ease Austin Eckler in. They most certainly did not, as he had 25 touches.
No, they did not.
So I like Robinson a lot. And I want to give this kid a lot of credit for this season. He's had 10 fantasy points in every game this year. That says a lot about who he is. Great season for him. Just not a very good football team around him. So his chances of scoring are probably a little bit lower than Austin Eckler's. I don't know. Give me Eckler, but it's close.
I'm with you.
All right, Adam Thielen versus Justin Jefferson. This is always a tough one. Jefferson's really emerged as, one of the better rookies in the league. Adam Thielen, kind of the PPR beast right here. Oh, boy. I'm going to give Jefferson. He hits one long play.
Oh, I'm going to go Thielen. I just feel better about it.
I don't feel good about either one. This is one where it's like a coin flip to me every week at this point. I can't argue. I don't have great points for Justin Jefferson. You could just as easily be right.
If there was a way I could choose Cook there, I would.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right. Cooper Kupp versus Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp, Arizona slot receivers.
I like Kupp more, but I like them both the same. They both can basically run routes from anywhere on the field, right?
All right. Chris Carson versus Tyler Lockett. Chris Carson. Another week healthier. I think they give him the ball a few more times.
I actually like both of them over DK Metcalf today, but I like Carson more than Lockett.
Yeah, I can get on board. I've been pretty lucky with the Seattle wide receivers most of the weeks this year. I don't really have a feeling about them today, one way or the other, which is good because I'm not playing either of them.
I would have loved Carson today if Hyde were out.
Yeah, you get a little worried about him losing a couple snaps. I think Hyde had more touches last week. Carson was a lot better with his touches, but Hyde had more.
Carson looked great, but Hyde had more touches, like you just said, and that means something. It means a lot.
Especially in the game where they're likely matched up with Colt McCoy, and you figure they're going to be up in this one. So Hyde is that guy that we talked about, and we equate him to that starting pitcher that is still in the league for no good reason, except for the fact that he eats innings. Hyde eats touches.
Agreed, man. Doesn't have like as big him as he wasn't probably quite as good, but he does have a lot of like Frank Gore in it. He just
Frank Gore, like a poor man's Frank Gore. I think that's a good comparison.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kenyon Drake versus Jonathan Taylor. Look, I hate picking an Indianapolis running back, but the spot here is pristine. I have no faith in Kenyon Drake to give you anything today. I think Taylor could beat him on 8 touches.
Yeah, I agree. This one's easy peasy for me. Give me Taylor.
Like, if you told me the touches were even, like, this would be my number one point. The only thing to ever worry about with the Indianapolis running backs is that, Hines or Wilkins gets the run today. But against Houston, I love this spot. So, I legitimately think Jonathan Taylor needs about 6 touches today to beat Kenyon Drake.
I'm with you.
All right. Speaking of Indianapolis running backs, we got Nyheim Hines going up against Michael Pittman. This one's tougher because it's Phillip Rivers in the Colts offense, and there is absolutely no consistency with who they go to. Pittman's kind of a young star. I know you're a big fan. Last week it was Hilton. It could be anybody on any given week. So why I like Taylor against Drake, it's because I hate Drake. I don't know where to go here. Honestly, man, I think you're going to pick Pittman.
Yeah,
I'll pick Hines to be different.
Pittman still had 9 targets last week. He only caught 2 balls, but the targets are there. Big game's coming. I like Pittman quite a bit more here.
All right, Henry Ruggs versus Hunter Renfrow. Renfrow, extension of the running game because they don't have Josh Jacobs this week.
I'll agree with you. I like that call.
Okay. Perryman versus Denzel Mims. I got Perryman. Mims is the emerging guy, but Perryman pretty much outscores him every single week. He still has, even though Mims has been better lately, Perryman has still outscored him every single week. Give me Brashad Perryman.
I'm with you.
All right. Hunter Henry versus Mike Williams. Look, I'm going to go Hunter Henry, but if I'm trying to win a GPP today, I like Mike Williams.
I agree with you again.
All right. Allen Lazard versus Robert Tonyan. Lazard.
Same. Big play upside. Tanyan's been good, but I like Lazard. Gut feel.
Rodgers loves both of these guys. I know you've been listening to Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show a lot lately. And there's definitely, does it feel like Aaron Rodgers, he's got a different personality this year?
Yeah, it does feel like that a little bit, for sure.
And for whatever reason that might be, I have no idea. But he's definitely been super complimentary of both of these dudes. He loves Lazard. He loves Tonyan. He's really complimentary of MVS. It's been fun this year listening to him be very high on all these young guys. And these guys both do some dirty work. So it's just been cool overall. But yeah, give me Lazard today. All right, Tyler Boyd versus T. Higgins. I have no idea. This is my last one I want to pick. Give me Boyd, I guess.
Give me Higgins.
I have no reasons to disagree with you. I just kind of picked a name randomly on this one. I don't know what to expect with the quarterback here.
Same.
All right, Wayne Gallman versus David Johnson. Who do you think gets up early better, Seattle or Indy? I guess is probably going to be the question here.
I like David Johnson here.
Any specific reason how come?
I think that he's going to be more involved, especially if they get down. I don't know. You might see some Deion Lewis today. Just a gut feel.
This is going to be a crazy question for you. Who's the better running back right now?
David Johnson still, in my opinion, but we haven't seen him in a couple weeks, and I get it. Gallman's been pretty good. It could very well be Gallman.
If Daniel Jones was in the lineup, I would like Gallman a lot better, just because then I think the offense would have a better opportunity to move. And what you have to like about Gallman is simply the fact that, I mean, he's like the focal point inside the red zone right now. The downside of that is I have no faith in the Giants getting into the red zone a lot this week. Seattle's defense is playing better. And while Colt McCoy is a viable backup, I just don't have a lot of faith in their offense this week. So I guess I'm going to go David Johnson as well, but not with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I get that. Makes sense.
So, interesting one. All right, guys. That pretty much does it for the morning. We appreciate y'all watching. If you could click the thumbs up button, please go ahead and do so. Don't forget to take advantage of that NBA package. And other than that, I wish everybody the best of luck on what could be the final week of fantasy football for a lot of you guys. But we still got a lot more DFS to go.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Let's get it today.
Yes, let's do that. Let's keep the winning streak going.